Alright, so we almost made it through all of the male reproductive structures before I ran out of time. So we ended on the external genitalia, which is the scrotum and penis. And so these are going to be things that are located outside of the pelvic cavity of the males. Talked about the scrotum. Basically, it allows the testes to remain at the correct temperature, so that way the sperm stay alive. And then the penis is going to be the actual, what would be considered the copulation structure for males. It does deliver sperm into the female reproductive system. It does have different regions: the shaft, the glans penis, and the prepuce. The prepuce is the foreskin, and this is what is removed during a circumcision. So the glans penis is going to be the enlarged tip here. The prepuce will be the foreskin, and then of course the shaft of the penis is going to be the length of it. Within the penis, there are actually 3 different areas of spongy erectile tissue. And basically, an erection is going to occur when the erectile tissue fills with blood during sexual excitement. When a male is not sexually aroused, if you remember back to the cardiovascular system, and we talked about you have your arteries, your veins, your arterioles, your venules, and your capillary beds. Well, within those capillary beds, we have the vascular shunt, which will direct blood directly from an arteriole to a venule, and that is going to be allowed by those precapillary sphincters. And those precapillary sphincters will be shut when a male is not sexually aroused. And when they become sexually aroused, then those precapillary sphincters will open, allowing blood to flow into all the capillary beds within the erectile tissue, causing an erection. All right, so let's move on to spermatogenesis. If you look at this term, it basically means producing sperm cells. Like in the beginning, in the book of Genesis in the Bible, in the beginning, how it was formed. So this is how sperm are formed. Spermatogenesis will begin at puberty and continue throughout life. Unlike females who are born with their actual egg cells, males are not going to be born producing sperm right away. You won't actually start producing sperm until puberty. But another difference between females is that males can produce sperm for their entire life, where females will only release eggs up until they go through menopause. And spermatogenesis does occur in the seminiferous tubules within the testes. And this is basically looking at the whole process of what is occurring. So this is looking at a seminiferous tubule. So I want you to think about these like noodle-like tubes within the actual testes, but they're going to be structured more like an actual, I think like a blood vessel. They are going to have an opening in the center. They will have the lumen, so that is the space. And these are going to be the walls of the seminiferous tubules. So it's like production of your epidermis, but in reverse. Whereas in the epidermis, you have your skin. You have your skin cells that are going to be produced at the bottom and then slowly be pushed towards the top until you shed them off. Whereas in spermatogenesis, it's the exact opposite. So now we're going to start at the wall of the seminiferous tubules, and as the spermatogonia, the stem cells, are produced, they're actually going to be pushed more inwards towards the actual inside of the lumen. So by the time it gets to that internal space right here, by the time it gets to that internal space, they will be sperm, they will have a flagella. They're not going to be completely matured. They still have to go to the epididymis for that. But they'll be released into that opening, and that's how they're going to be able to travel through the duct system of the males. So this is just looking at it a little closer up. So the basement membrane around the edge of the seminiferous tubules, this is where meiosis is going to be occurring. Well, first you have mitosis. Remember, in mitosis, you produce two identical daughter cells. These are going to be diploid because they do have two sets of chromosomes. One of them will be a type A daughter cell. That's going to stay and hang out at the basement membrane because it's going to be a stem cell as well. But a type B daughter cell is going to be what actually gets pushed inward towards the lumen. That's going to be what undergoes meiosis and becomes those actual gametes. So you can see the different stages of meiosis. So we have meiosis 1, and then we have meiosis 2. At the end of meiosis 2, these are going to be our early spermatids, and those are going to be what are going to start to mature to actually become the sperm themselves. You will notice that they are haploid, represented by just an N, so each of these will have one set of chromosomes. And so by the time they reach the lumen, or that inner space of the seminiferous tubules, they will have a flagella, and they are going to be considered sperm by the time they are released. So this is basically the process I just explained on the picture. So the spermatogonia, which are the stem cells, will undergo mitosis, and this is going to be triggered by follicle-stimulating hormone, which is going to be released from your pituitary gland. And I already talked about the two types of daughter cells. Type A is going to be another stem cell. Type B is going to be what actually becomes a spermatocyte and goes on to become a sperm. So that primary spermatocyte is what undergoes meiosis. So the spermatids, instead of having two sets of chromosomes, will only have one, so they will only have 23 chromosomes. And then basically, once the sperm is produced, each will have 23 chromosomes. Will have to unite with an egg that has 23 chromosomes. And when their fertilization occurs, it forms a zygote. It is going to be diploid, so we show that by 2N, and it will have 46 chromosomes unless there was some type of non-disjunction that occurred, and then we'll have a chromosomal defect. So here we show meiosis occurring. Where we're not wanting to work with me. Meiosis occurring. We've got our sperm, got our egg, fertilization occurs. Now we have a diploid zygote, and that will become either a male or female depending on the chromosome. So late spermatids, as they are maturing, they are going to develop into a structure that has both a head, a midpiece, and a tail. And they won't actually be considered sperm until they are matured. The entire process of spermatogenesis, starting with meiosis all the way through spermiogenesis, which is basically just the maturing of the spermatids, takes about 64 to 72 days. So it's not something that just happens in the blink of an eye. So here we have the structure of the sperm. Here we have the structure of the sperm. Is this still recording? Let's see what's going on. Okay. So here we have the structure of the sperm. We have the head right here, which the head is going to include the nucleus, which that's where the chromosomes are going to be. It is surrounded by the structure called an acrosome. It's kind of like a helmet. And it is going to produce lysosome or lysozymes that are going to help break down the external structure of the egg so it can actually penetrate. Then we have the midpiece, which is right here. That is basically going to be the neck of the actual sperm. These little orange structures, that's going to be mitochondria that wrap around this area, and that's going to be what allows the production of ATP, of course, so energy, so the sperm can actually swim around. And then the tail is going to be this back part, and that's going to be what whips in order so it can actually move. And here we have an actual image of what sperm will look like. you'll notice that not all the sperm have flagella. Not all sperm will be completely good sperm. Um, so it's survival of the fittest. Who can actually make it to the egg and penetrate it? The sperm is the only human cell that has a flagella. Like I said before, the head is going to be where the DNA is found. The acrosome is going to be the helmet that is going to help break down the outside part of the egg so the sperm can actually penetrate it. Talked about the mid piece, which is going to have the mitochondria for energy production. And that brings us to the last part, which is going to be testosterone production in males. It is the most important hormone of the testes. It's produced in specialized cells called interstitial cells, and it's going to start being produced whenever the hypothalamus allows the pituitary gland to start producing luteinizing hormone. And luteinizing hormone is a tropic hormone that is going to travel to the testes and basically tell the testes to start producing testosterone. So once testosterone starts to be produced, now males will always have testosterone, but you'll see a peak in testosterone production at puberty, and that's going to be what stimulates reproductive organ development. It's also what underlies the sex drive in males, which is why males tend to have a stronger sex drive than females. And it also causes the development of secondary sex characteristics. So things that happen to guys during puberty. The voice deepens, increased hair growth, enlargement of skeletal muscles, and thickening of the bones. And this is going to be controlled by negative feedback mechanisms. So here in our brain, where's my mouse? Here in the brain, so here's our hypothalamus. Remember, we have the pituitary gland that branches off of it. The anterior pituitary releases both follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. The follicle-stimulating hormone is going to be the hormone that actually helps to increase sperm production. The luteinizing hormone is going to be the tropic hormone that actually is released to increase testosterone production. So if testosterone production decreases, we get that negative feedback response that will be picked up by the brain and the anterior pituitary. That's going to cause it to release more luteinizing hormone in order to cause the testes to produce more testosterone production. The more testosterone that's produced, the increase you have in both primary and secondary sex characteristics. And that is your male reproductive system.